Here, I want to introduce the concept of fracture in engineering field. In the engineering analysis, we will confront several structures with fracture involved. You could have a look at this case here. This stands for the crack interface, and the fracture will freely propagate under the external loading. If we consider the fracture displacement along this interface here, we will have two types of material. The first type is the ductile fracture with the obverse crack fracture deformation here. The other one is the brittle fracture without apparent deformation at the crack interface here. For the analysis, we always need to describe the fracture interface. The first thing come to our concept is the parameters used in the analysis. There are two important parameters. The first one is the fracture strength, TU here. It's the maximum traction applied on the fracture interface. The other one is the fracture energy, GC here. It's the energy dissipation along the unit area of the fracture interface. From this diagram here, we can get the relation between the fracture energy and the fracture strength for the traction and the displacement jump relation. For the analysis, we will have three types of fracture model. The first one is the fracture opening is perpendicular to the direction of crack propagation and also perpendicular to the fracture interface here. This will be the case for the double cantilever beam under this vertical load here, and the fracture will propagate along this interface here. The second type of fracture mode is the shear mode. You can have a look at this diagram here. This shear mode is the displacement jump for the crack interface here is parallel to the fracture interface, this interface here, and also perpendicular to the fracture front, this point, this line here. We will confront this case in the 4-point bending test here, and the shear band will be fractured along this line here. The third type of fracture mode is the laser shear crack. For this one, the fracture jump between these two parts is still parallel to the fracture interface, but this direction is parallel also to the fracture front. And for this case, we will confront in the double cantilever beam test, but now we didn't have vertical load. We have the shear force applied in this direction and in this direction.